I really am beside myself to be sitting opposite Alan Alda, one of the most inspiring and talented and extraordinary individuals. It really is an honor to be sitting here talking to you. When I was thinking about how I was going to intro you, that was unplanned because I was thinking of that I was going to say something about how your voice and your face, like it is so iconic, and you seem to in some ways have narrated different points in my life and through like your various projects but I imagine everyone says that to you.
No, that's the first time I've heard it. You got to now take a minute and tell me what points in your life I've narrated.
Well,
I
think about Free to Be You and Me.
Oh, yeah.
Which came out, I think, right after I was born. What, in 72 did it come out? And something that I listened to all the time and taught me, even like as a young kid, about equality and feminism and so many things. And then watching MASH or Band Please On or just so many. There was just so many things. And now most recently Marriage Story, which is absolutely extraordinary.
Well, I hope that's not a point in your life that you're going through.
Not yet.
Because it does involve a divorce.
It does.
But the amazing thing to me about what Noah Baumbach has managed to do, who wrote it and directed it, is that even though it involves a divorce, the people love each other even more, even better in a way, maybe not more, but better after the divorce than they did while they were married, because they've been forced to learn to cooperate for the good of the child and for their own well-being. They've had to cooperate even more and better than they did before. So he managed to tell a love story that also is about divorce. And I think that's I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's such an extraordinary film. It's going to be on Netflix December 6th. I saw it in a theater, and I think if you have that opportunity, absolutely go see it in the theater. And Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson played the couple that you're talking about.
Aren't they amazing?
Good Lord, are they amazing? Like, they are so good individually and together, and the way they and like you said, it's though the film is called Marriage Story, it is about the unraveling of a marriage, and you play one of his divorce attorneys.
Right. And they're spectacular because they go the full distance of emotions. There's that one scene where they start off very cordial and cooperative, and by the end, they're scathing with each other. And to make that transition believably, every step along the way, you believe it's like the building blocks are really solid, emotional, truthful moments.
Yeah.
And that I really admire them for what they've done.
How was it being on set? I mean, a lot of your scenes are with Adam Driver, and he's so wonderful in this movie.
I've never seen Adam Driver not be wonderful. And when I met him on the set, he's such a lovely person. We got to be friends right away. And I respect him so much as a person and not only as an actor. You know, he was in the military for a few years and takes it very seriously. Even I had him on my podcast as a guest, and he told me how he feels that his life in the military was a really good preparation for being an actor. And those two ideas don't go together.
I know. How so? I'm curious.
You have to have a lot of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be part of something bigger than yourself. You have to have loyalty and connection to the people around you. These are all really important traits for a good performance. If you go in thinking it's all about you, it's not so good. It hurts the whole operation. And in the military, that could be disastrous.
Yeah.
On the stage, you could die that night with the audience, but you come back the next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it can be just as disastrous for the performance.
Alan Alda Center at Stony Brook that you have. And isn't that a lot of, I mean, I remember reading an interview with you where you talked about how it was teaching, improv or other things to scientists.
We do.
And
we use improvisation exercises, not comedy improv,
right.
but the kind of improv that was developed decades ago that help you make contact with the person that you're doing the exercise with in ways that you may not be accustomed to making contact. We are really taking what the other person is thinking and feeling. It's really an exercise in building empathy. And then when you turn to an audience, you have that same contact with the audience. I mean, we've trained 15,000 scientists in the last 10 years in 8 different countries. And sometimes someone will come in and be ready to deliver a talk by looking over the heads of the audience to get rid of their anxiety. And by the time they leave the workshop, they realize that actually making contact with the audience totally takes your anxiety away. In fact, it makes it a happy experience, makes it a dynamic experience. And you might find yourself saying things you wouldn't have said if you went in with the best possible way to describe what you have to communicate without regard to how it might land on the audience. But if you prepare what you have to say in terms of how it lands on your audience, it's completely different. And they're more likely to let it get into their head and stick there because you're a real presence to them. You're not just a talking machine blurting out a little lecture. And what's been fun for me is I did this movie Marriage Story because it was such a fine script and I was going to be working with such brilliant people. And then I'm in it and we make the movie and I look at it on the screen and I think, this is about what my podcast is about.
Yeah.
These 2 people have a happy marriage. Their communication starts to break down. They go through a divorce and then they realize that in divorcing, they have to communicate better than they did when they were married. Otherwise, it's going to be a tragedy for the kid and for them as well. So here it's, and the way the lawyers communicate with them and they communicate with the lawyers, it could all be an episode on my podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And just yes, exactly what you said, the different ways of communicating, even without words, the ways of communicating. I mean, the final, obviously I'm not going to ruin it. The final shot of the movie is...
I know, don't say it. It's
I won't,
so
but it
touching
is
to everybody who sees it.
It
breaks your heart.
It just, like everyone in the theater when I saw it, people just kind of sat there, when it's good when everyone's sitting and just watching all the credits because you can't you can't quite get up. Do you feel like even though you've acted in so many things and directed and performed and done all of these things, do you still learn about acting?
Oh, sure I do. Yeah, that's why I want to work with such good people and why I want to work with people who are on the cusp of a new understanding of acting. Adam, for instance, is probably one of our greatest actors, and he's young, and he's got a way of approaching his work that I feel I can learn a lot from because he's a new generation. He's acting parts that people are living in this time, not in the time when I was starting out. So as the culture changes, acting styles change, and I'm really interested to see what they do and how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Was it interesting then to be in a scene with him, going back and forth with him when he had this different kind of approach? How did that work?
Well, it worked great because he's so responsive. You know what we were saying a minute ago about reacting to the other person, to reading the other person, really listening. He does that effortlessly. You come at him with something that's different, fresh, a different way of saying what is written in the script. He responds to it. And then you have a chance to respond back in a slightly different way. Mm-hmm. And when I've had conversations on the podcast with Yo-Yo Ma, Itzhak Perlman, Renee Fleming. They all say the same thing, and that's performing in a whole other field. And you'd think in, for instance, classical music, the notes are on the page. There's a tradition of how to play it. You do it one way. But within the accepted norms of how to play it, there's so much variety that happens in the moment when you're in front of the audience and you put down all your preparation and just sail. And when you're with another actor who can do that, or another musician if you're a musician, and the two of you just respond to one another like leaves in the wind, it's an extraordinarily beautiful experience.